plus U, O. Not au. There are some people who chant au. Have you heard that? Huh? Au. Even the very fact that the way it is ugly and it is not natural. The jaws move this way. Ow. It's unnatural. It is non-phonetic. We use the jaws only this way, not this way. Unless you have a problem. There was one Sanskrit teacher, he used to say this, Rama, 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 Rama. So he had a problem. Understand it? This is ridiculous. And they are serious, there's another problem. Then he started Om. And the chanting is Aum. 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 You know, we have some rules. The rules are, you are not supposed to laugh when somebody is serious. The people who are teaching yoga should pay more attention to understand yoga as it is to be understood, totally. It has to be understood totally. Yoga is a part of Vedanta. In the sense that to prepare a person for this understanding, you require yoga. Yoga means a way of living.
I think yoga found me. I had very poor health as a child. And my parents tried various things to help me. And nothing seemed to work. So what happened was that my father took me to India one time when I was 12 years old. And he had more time there with me. So in the village initially where my health was ruined, in the same village, he taught me yoga. So then I started to do yoga regularly. And when I came back to Africa, where I lived, in East Africa, that was the first year I did not miss a single class because of yoga. So it was more like eventually yoga found me. And then wherever I went, I looked at different teachers. I found different teachers until I found Mr. Iyengar in 1968 in England.
And how was the experience with him?
It was the most fantastic experience with him. I had a bad shoulder. When I was 24 years old, my arm was paralyzed. So I had been to various doctors, including seeing some of the best physiotherapists in the world. And no one could really help it. My arm recovered by itself, but it was not strong and I could not do many things with the arm. So the very first class I had with Mr. Iyengar, he was It was a teacher's class, and there were 20 students in the class, so it was a strong class. And he was introduced to everybody in the class. And when he came to me, he said, "What's wrong with your right shoulder?" So I tried to tell him story of what happened, how it was paralyzed. And he doesn't like long stories. He says, yes, we will see. So that class was supposed to be 3 hours long. Instead, he ran it more than 4 hours. So everybody was very, very, very tired. Then when he finished the class, he said, "Okay, you can now lie down and relax." He says, "Not you." And I said, "Oh my God, what is he going to do to me now?" But he put me back in Sarvangasana, turned my arm, stood on the arm, asked me to rotate it properly, adjusted it. And I must have been there for maybe another minute or so. Then I stood up and he says, "How does your arm feel?" And I said, "It feels good." So he says, "No, tell me more." And I said, "It feels very good." So he says, "No, you're not telling me how it feels." I said, "It feels excellent." And he still wasn't satisfied. So I said, "Sir," in those days we didn't call him Guruji. So I said, "Sir, what is it you are asking me? I don't understand. It feels better than it's ever felt before." So he says, "Your arm feels full. It doesn't feel empty anymore." And I was very, very, very impressed just by that first meeting, that not only he could make this feel better than anyone had ever done, but he knew how to describe the feeling. So that impressed me a lot. And I was sold. That moment was my big change in my life. I think with my shoulder, what I would say is more than making the shoulder feel better, it gave me a sense of confidence. And that was much more valuable. Because that confidence then went into other aspects of life. See, I think human beings enjoy communication most. If you can say something to a person who is in pain, and what you say helps relieve the pain, and you see that joy on their face, I don't think there's anything better in life. So I don't have to go looking for joy in yoga. It bubbles up every day.
And the first question that one has to ask themselves is, number one, what for do I meditate? What do I hope to get out of this? What's my purpose? Then what does this seeker have to do? The seeker needs to become a student. Means I have to expose myself to this teaching. It's a teaching. It's not a practice. You cannot practice who you are. You have to get a teaching that will help you knock off the falsity of who you think you are now. So in fact, the teaching is more of an unlearning process. The teaching has to chip away at all the wrong ideas. When we take up any kind of a form of meditation, we're trying to relax away from the small self and collapse into the real self. Why I use these words relax and collapse? Very important, because otherwise meditation people somehow bring in tension and struggle and split and conflict. But if I really know what I'm doing when I attempt to meditate, I will know that it is a process that has to involve relaxation, it has to involve gentleness and quietude, anything opposite of tension.
Liberation is the aim of yoga practice, and so to name our style, give it a name that has the ultimate intention incorporated in the name, I think is helpful for remembering when you are practicing that that is the ultimate aim, liberation. The aim of Hatha Yoga is to be able to hear the nadam, to hear the internal sound, the pulsation of your own soul, which is described as Om. And so to be able to develop a body and mind instrument tuned to that level of refinement, to be able to hear that sound, one of the techniques is to develop the ability to listen. So yoga practices should have something to do with joy. You know, the aim of yoga is samadhi, which means joy. It means ecstasy. It means beyond the beyond blissful state. It just means really happy experience. So, how to encourage that innate happiness, because our soul's nature is happiness.
All the teachings of Buddhism, which really give us tools and skillful means for how to live our life, became my life. The Dharma became really what started to come out of me as I was teaching yoga. And it was very fulfilling for me and a natural fit to combine the Tibetan Buddhism with yoga. And I think for me always there was a little bit of unfulfillment in yoga. From a physical aspect, you can't do better than yoga. But the philosophy wasn't completely connecting to life off the mat. So the Buddhist teachings in combination with yoga became a more complete teaching of a way to be a householder yogi, to really have the teachings of yoga and Buddhism be a way to live your life, be a way to be in the world and be with other people. And that became an organic expression that I shared with all my students.
You do a lot of exchange with different teachers from the whole country, you know, bringing people in to teach workshops. And it's just so great, the interaction and exchange of styles and different views of yoga. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it's really fun for us to have different people come from all over the world to come to our studio. I consider it really an honor that they would want to come here, so it's a thrill for me. And it's great for our students to meet different teachers. You know yourself, your own practice deepened when you started to work with more than one teacher, you know? So it's good for our students, and it's good for me and for the teachers. We get to learn from each other, and also, you know, you can get stuck in your own idea of what a triangle should be, you know, or what Tadasana should be, or how a headstand should be. And it's really good to let that evolve and explore that and look at it from all different directions, because that's really the nature of what we're doing as yoga practitioners, is remembering every day to pay attention to what's happening right now, because everything keeps changing. And so having different teachers come in, you know, can wake us up a little bit and go, this teaching of how to do this pose or look at the world this way isn't solid. None of it's solid. So it's just great to have that, you know, it's sort of like inhaling and exhaling, bringing people in, taking teachings in and out, and sharing, connecting.
We like to let the physical practice speak for itself for the most part. There is chanting here. It's not completely a not spiritual practice. In fact, I think it's a very deeply spiritual practice. But we try to let the yoga speak more for itself here.
What do you get most out of teaching?
What I really love about yoga is that you don't need a metaphor to explain it. I spent 20 years of my life creating metaphors, you know, and yoga is a visceral experience. It's experiential. And it's something that doesn't have to be talked about. It's something that has to be done and felt and experienced. And that's what I love about it more than anything. So we just try to let that happen here.
You being a sculptor, and you said that you're still doing that, but you're doing now with energy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny. I used to be a materialist. I used to love working with material, sculpting, carving, constructing, building, designing, photographing, and just being around it. You know? And as I got more into yoga, my work started to get more and more dematerialized, to the point where it was just, I was literally working with void, or just trying to work with energy. And teaching yoga, I think, is really, what I feel like I'm doing is sculpting energy, like the energy inside of people. I often tell them that we're not really working with the bodies, we're working with the energy inside of their bodies. And I feel like what I'm doing is reshaping that energy, or redirecting that energy in a very positive way. and taking 30 stressed out people in this door, sending them out the door feeling really happy and good is a radical act, to send them out to the world feeling happy and good, and they're going to be kind to their friends and their families or whoever they run into on the street. And so it literally changes the world.
But that for me was like, or just even if my fingers moved, it like a ribbon of color and breath and life moving through my fingers. And that's really what I want to share, that this is a creative process. And that's even throughout an absolute beginner or a vinyasa or the kundalini, where there's a little bit more focus with the breath. The aim is still the same. The aim is to experience your happy, joyous self.